Hey, it's me, Shane, Gemini Garage, and today we're going to take this mess of parts here. Got an old ammo can, 12-volt motorcycle battery, some tiny little solar panels, trickle charger, some other various parts and pieces here. We're going to take all this here, and we're going to turn it into this here. You know, it's really important when the rest of the world isn't running on, 110, 120 household volts. A lot of it's running on 12 volts. Your cars, 12 volts. Most of your motorcycles, ATVs, RVs, 12 volts. You do have some things that are sometimes 24 volts, but for the most part, 12 volts is 12 volts. And of course, you get a power converter and enough 12-volt batteries, and you can power just about anything. So. It's important to have 12 volts laying around, and it's not always convenient to just have a car battery laying around. And while you can buy all different kinds of portable batteries, battery boxes, or solar cell chargers and all kinds of different things like that, nothing beats a homemade battery box with your own stuff. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to take all this stuff here and put it in a battery box. With this thing, you should be able to power a small a CB radio or a ham radio. You should be able to recharge your phone or maybe any other equipment that you might have that you would charge in your car. And so I'm going to kind of organize my stuff here a little bit and get it together, and I'll be back, so stick with me. Alright, so what I'm going to do here real quick is just kind of go over a little bit of what the master plan or my idea for this thing is. Obviously, you could use a lot of different things for some type of a battery box. I just happen to have this old ammo can laying around, and I use these particular batteries for the ATV I have, and some other stuff use these kind of batteries, so I just happen to have this size battery, and it fits in here. You could also use the plastic ammo cans. They're probably going to be a little bit less waterproof. I mean, I know they have a seal in them, but these batteries are kind of heavy, and the plastic ones might just flex a little more. But that's not a deal breaker. This one here, I'm going to kind of have this one sealed up. It's not going to be probably completely waterproof, but it'll be fairly water resistant when I'm done with it. I'm basically just going to put the battery in here, put a couple of different pairs of binding posts on the outside and the lid here, and that's pretty much going to be it. I'll have like some of these 12-volt things here and some wires and stuff that I can hook onto these terminals, but that stuff will be stored in the box. I'm not really going to like drill a hole in the box, to put one of these through, because these things are not really that waterproof. And like I said, if you're not going to be submerging it, it probably doesn't need to be that waterproof, but like I said, less holes to drill, it'll work just as well, and it'll be, I think, a little bit more solid. This battery's kind of heavy, like I said, so you need to be able to put it in something that's, going to be able to handle the weight. So some ammo boxes I've seen, like I said, are maybe a little bit flimsy. This one here's not going to give me any problems. You could also use one of those larger, this is one of those thinner ammo cans. You could also use, really any size ammo can. The only thing is when you start getting up there in size with the ammo cans and the batteries, then you're getting into territory where you're going to get some weight there. It's going to be like the size of a car battery and weigh like one. But, hey, if that's what you want to do, go for it. It'll be a bulletproof battery box. You can make it how you want and put as much of this kind of stuff in it and on it as you want. So, So I'm going to grab a couple of tools here and figure out where I'm going to drill my holes here, and I'll be back, so stick with me. Okay, as I said, once again, other big bonus to using these ammo cans is the lid slide off, so that's always nice. Easier to work with. So pretty much I'm just going to drop this battery down in here. Literally, right? And I've got a couple of wires with some 12-volt fuses and stuff in there. I'm basically just going to, attach those wires to these posts here, and then I'll drill some holes in this lid here and put some of these binding posts in there. I think I'll put 4 of them in there, just because it'd be nice to have maybe a couple closer together on one of the ends, and then maybe a couple spaced a little bit further apart, so you can, hook a couple different things up to it if you want to. And then Again, this is a trickle charger here. This will be something that you'll charge it with, but again, this will be stored inside. These are some extra batteries and some wires and stuff that you could use, charging ports. I'll hook some wires up to these things so that you can hook these up to the binding posts. But once again, all this stuff can be stored inside. Here's a couple of little tiny little solar panels. They don't even have wires soldered onto them yet, so this is kind of going to be a project here. We'll see if we can get these things hooked up to charge this thing a little bit in the sunlight. So should be an interesting little project here. So that's kind of the game plan there. So all right, I shall return. Okay, so real quick, the first thing I'm going to do is drill my holes in the lid here for my binding posts here. And you don't need a real big hole for these particular ones. That's probably about maybe 1/8 of an inch, 3/16 of an inch hole. Excuse me, should do it. This thing has a, if you unscrew this nut off of here, there's also a spacer. You can drill this hole a little bit bigger so that the spacer goes up. It's kind of a little shelf on it right here, and it'll go up and fit, if you're putting it through a piece of metal or a piece of plastic. But you do or don't have to use this here, as long as this is going down through the metal and it's insulated away from it, which it will be, because this little piece here kind of has the shape of this nut in it here, and so this keeps it insulated from whatever you're putting it into. So just kind of a note on that there. And I decided I'm going to put 2 sets of binding posts in, one kind of in the front of the lid, one in the rear. They'll kind of be sitting in here like this, and I think that'll work pretty good. And now you might be saying, I'm going to put my holes inbound just a little bit here. You might be saying, well, why don't I just use some of these, because there's already kind of some rivet nubs holes right here, which would be good for drilling through. But if you turn this over and look, right where those rivets are, it's kind of close to this edge of the seal, and there's a nut on this side, and I just don't want to deal with having to interference with that, so I'm just going to make my hole inboard a little bit so it'll be right there. It's actually in the middle a little bit more if you look at it on the underside than it is on the top side, but we've got this seal to contend with here. So anyways, gonna go drill these holes here, and I'll be back. So I got my holes drilled here, and good enough, close enough. You can see why I wanted to go just a tiny bit inboard a little bit, so that I wasn't up too close to this seal part here, and the nut will fit better there. So yeah, these should just let's see this one. Like I said, you can choose to put a bigger hole in there for the spacer to go through, or you can just put it in like that, or you could, however you want to do it really. But this will be insulated from your hole. Like I said, if you want to put a bigger hole and use this actual piece here that's meant to go through there, you can do that. So, okay. Actually, upon looking at this, you do want to use this spacer. You've got more than enough post to go through there, and you do want to have that go in there. So let's see here. I need to make these holes just a tiny bit bigger. Not much. Okay. So this should work out a little bit better here. I don't think I need to make it much bigger. Maybe I do, just a little bit. Okay, third time's a charm. Now, this is one of those things you don't want to have a lot of extra, crap, and you don't want to have a bunch of hanging metal, and you want to make sure your holes are clean, because you want these things to be flat, because that shoulder's not very big on there, and you need it to be flat on the top and the underside so it sits flat on there. So finally got all these to the right size. Definitely nice to have a stepped set of drill bits, that go up incrementally, just for things like this. so that you usually you can get away with having a hole off a little bit depending on what you're doing, but this right here, you know, the closer, you know, on you are, the better. So now what I'd like to do is, my plan was to put a coat of paint on this. It's kind of rainy and cold and crappy out right now, so this is a tail end of a can of some red spray paint, so I'm going to let this thing warm up in the house here overnight, and I'm going to clean this lid off real good and let it dry, and try and get a coat of paint on this later tonight or tomorrow before I start kind of putting some of this together. So I can paint this whenever, but I want to do this before I get the binding posts and stuff on there. So anyways, with that, I shall return. Okay, so we're back here and got a couple extra parts here, and we got a quick little coat of paint on this thing here. And so we got our holes in here. Like I said, I didn't paint the inside. There's no sense in doing that. It wasn't that rusty, so I just kind of cleaned it up. And anyways, here's my holes here. And again, these are going to be where I put my binding posts. So I'll have a pair right here, and then another set here. And then I think underneath what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this 10 gauge wire that's got a fuse, and you can get these things in different gauges, but you cut it. It comes in a loop like this. You cut it wherever you want it, you know, so the fuse can be as close to this end or that end or wherever you want it at. These are pretty cool. They come with the fuse. So I'm just going to wire in, you really only need one of these, but I'm going to wire one into the positive on the battery here. I'll wire one into the positive and one into the negative. I got some shrink tubing here. I'm going to put something on this one just to make it either green or black. Just not like I'm not going to know because it's going to be inside the box, but just for reference if anybody ever opens it up and wonders why there's two red wires coming off of there. It's always nice to kind of use a black or a green for your ground reference, or at least have it marked in some way. So, but I think I'm just going to run a positive and a negative wire going to one set of binding posts, and then I've got some wire here. I'll probably just jump some wire from these two binding posts here that are fused over to these two here, and that should be more than enough. I'm not going to need two sets of fuses on each of these binding posts. Drawing that much power off of each set of binding posts is more than this battery would be capable of anyways. You know, with a 10 gauge wire on there. So it's a, I forgot what it was. It's a, it's 175 cold cranking amps, 12 volt. It's a 10 amp hour. And a word about these batteries here. This is basically a motorcycle battery. It's been used in motorcycles and ATVs and some riding lawnmowers and stuff for decades. They make a BA123. This is a BA127. They make one that's a little bit shorter. The 123 I believe is a little bit shorter than this. I think it's an 8 amp hour. I think they make like a 6 and an 8 and a 10 and then a 12. It's a little bit taller. There's another model that's a little bit taller, a couple models that are a little bit taller, and then after that they start getting thicker. So you want to stick somewhere in this group size here to be able to fit into one of these sized ammo cans here. But again, you could use whatever size ammo can you want, or you know, pretty much whatever kind of box you want. If you got a plastic toolbox laying around and you want to use that, whatever. I just chose to use this because it was laying around and it'll make a good sturdy box. And the other reason why I'm kind of going minimalistic on putting the holes and stuff in here, yeah, you know, I could put some larger holes in this and put these 12 volt sockets, you know, in here somewhere in the lid, but that's a lot more work when you're dealing with metal like this. It's, you got to have a, you know, a metal hole saw, and it's just kind of more of a pain in the butt. Something maybe a little bit better to do for a plastic box. I mean, you can do it, but the way I'm doing this, it's really just going to have these 4 terminal holes here for the binding posts. And so I'm going to put a little silicone when I put those through. So this will really be the only place that water can get in. So it'll be sealed up pretty good as far as that goes. You'll have to open it up and take out the charger, you know, and plug a charger in and put it, you know, on the post, or hook up the solar panels manually to the post. But again, it'll all be contained inside the box and all closed up in there. So that's just kind of how I'm going to do mine. As I said before, you could, you know, put all kinds of different holes and posts, and you can put all kinds of volt meters on it and really go crazy with them if you want to. So, but this is how I'm doing mine. And so again, I've got 2 sets of binding posts here. And I'm going to take all these nuts and take these things off and kind of get these things organized. And then, okay, so it pretty much goes like this. So what you'll do is you'll take and you'll put this shaft here down through here. This has the shape of a nut in here, so it kind of holds it, keeps it from spinning. You'll take and you'll put this on the outside, and then this piece here goes underneath there like that, and then you put your washer and then 1 nut on. Now you might want to put a split washer on here, or you could put some little thread locker on there, or you could put a little silicone on there just to keep that from vibrating loose, however you want to do that. I'm going to put just a little tiny dab of silicone on all these things while I go around them. But again, you're pretty much putting this thing in from the one side here, and then this thing with the little shoulder there goes into the bottom there, and then you sandwich the lid in there like that. And then this bottom part here, you put on your washer, your nut, and then there's enough space for your electrical terminal and 1 more nut on here. So, and I'm kind of showing you how this goes because these things are not created the same. These are actually labeled as 12 volt electrical binding posts or electrical binding posts or terminals. You'll also find the ones that have the banana connector things like the holes. Those are kind of meant for speakers. Some of them are meant for electrical because on some things you look on the back of them and it's got those little things where you screw them. You can stick a jack in a banana plug or a jack in there, and then or put the wire in there. But some of them are also just kind of made for speaker jacks too. So. This stuff isn't high enough voltage where it's really going to matter that much, but you do need to kind of pay attention, and I'll kind of try and post some pictures of what are supposedly actual 12 volt binding posts and what are maybe the kinds that you would get or that you see for stereo equipment and speakers and stuff. Okay, so like I said, I'm just putting a little bit of silicone around these things here. This is just absolutely totally unnecessary, but doing it anyway. Just putting some right around this shoulder here. Like I said, I don't even plan on getting it that wet, but since I'm in here and it's not a bad idea, because you may find yourself, with this thing outdoors at some point, so. And you'll get silicone all over yourself. Just press that onto there. And put on my washer and 1 nut. Okay, good on that one. Okay. All right, let's see what we got here. Okay, like I said, this shaft on here is kind of adjustable as to how much you leave sticking out. So you want to make sure okay. That cat's just got a case of the zoomies, don't mind it. Okay. Okay. So I think we're good to go there. So we got that one done. Now we're going to do the negative side here. And I will speed this up some, maybe. Okay, so there we go. Alright, so we got these posts on this two here. And now we're just going to put the other two in this end here. Okay, we're back here and a little bit further along here in the plans. So, got the lid here, of course, got this all taken care of here. Pretty good to go here. And of course, these lids on these particular kind of ammo cans just slide on here. Which is another reason I kind of wanted to use one of these cans. It's kind of nice to be able to take this lid off if you need to. So, now, here we got the battery here. And this is about how much clearance you got with this battery. Got about 1/8 of an inch, maybe 1/4 of an inch on the side, not a lot, but it'll fit in there nice and tight. So we'll just kind of drop this battery down in here. So now we got one of these, one of my fused pieces of wire here that I just went ahead and cut it in the middle here. And you can see how you can just take one of these terminals or one of these, the positive battery terminal here, and we'll just attach it there and attach this one to this positive here, and then we'll take this other one here and maybe put some black shrink wrapping you know, on here to make sure that it's I mean, you can tell which is positive and negative, but I like the positive to be red and the negative to be black or green. Now we'll take this one here and cut it and do the same thing, run it from here to this one over here, and that'll give us our 12 volts to here. And then we'll just take a couple of other wires and run them from here over to here. Like I said, there's no sense in having 4 different wires of these, you know, going from each terminal to each thing. It's this battery, you'd be drawing way too much power if you were actually going to, you know, utilize 4 of these 10 gauge wires drawing their full potential. So just the 10 gauges going to here that are fused, and then a couple of wires going from here to there ought to be more than ample for what this is going to be used for. So with that, I'm going to grab me another set of wire strippers here, and we'll get back to it. Alright, well, we're back, and so far what I've done is we, of course, a quick recap here. We drilled our holes in our lid, put our binding posts in here, slid the lid back on here, put the battery in here, just kind of set the battery down in there. So, okay, what we're going to do is, of course, I had these 2 fused pieces of wire here that were in a loop that I cut, stripped the ends off, had some black shrink wrap and put it on this one because I wanted to have the black for the ground wire from the battery. And it's, you know, not a bad idea to have a fuse for your ground. Sometimes if your ground side fuse blows, that can kind of help you troubleshoot what your problem might be, as opposed to if you just have the positive one. So not a bad idea to have a fuse on each one. Like I said, I'm just going to have a fused wire going to here, and then a fused wire going to here, and then from here to here, I'm just going to have a couple of jumper wires. Got some 10 gauge wire here, so I'm just going to strip these ends off here and run these between the two. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to do kind of a final measurement on this here. Let's see, let's give these a little bit of a cut right here so I can split them a little bit here.
26, disregard.
Turn that off there. Okay. This is 10 gauge, so it's pretty stiff. Probably, I mean, I don't know if it's more than, you know, this is like a 12 amp hour battery, so, you know, you're not going to be probably draining this full tilt. Although with 10 gauge, you could probably use this to, you might be able to use this to jump start like a motorcycle or ATV or something. I mean, at least with this battery in here, you sure could. And that's the nice thing about this thing. If whatever connections you've got out here aren't working out for you, you can open it up, hook something straight to the battery, and keep lots of extra stuff in here as you will see. That's just kind of how I'm going to make it. So, all right, I'm kind of going to see if I can sort of do something like this here. So I'll do that one there. I'm going to be putting an end on there. And that's what I'm going to put on. I got some of, had to go and get some of these. These are good for 10 or 12 gauge. These eyelets here. Just to give you the exact name here. 1/4 inch ring terminals. So there you go. And that'll work great on here. Okay, let's strip these ends here. And again, wire strippers. I've got a video on these someplace, I believe. It's a good video. You should watch these. These are great. If you don't have some, go to Harbor Freight and pick some up. They're well worth the, you know, 10 or 15 bucks you pay for these things. And they work pretty well and they last good too. They don't just, I've had pretty good luck with these. They don't just fall apart after one use. Okay. And then off there. Once again, the more of this kind of stuff you do, that's when you really start enjoying the tools. Okay, and then I've got the crimper here, and I've also got a video. I think it's called "Go Crimp Yourself." It's not this exact set of crimpers, but it's a universal crimping tool set that it does this and coax and a whole bunch of other kinds of things. It's a really cool crimper. Check that video out, because this is another one of those tools. It's just a real, it's a time saver, and the quality of work when you're done is just a lot better. So put this on there, and get our crimper on here. I mean, the crimp that this thing puts on, compared to those little thin ones that, you know, that you get at the auto parts stores or the El Cheapos. I mean, the El Cheapos, you know, those are okay to keep in your car or whatever, boat or whatever for an emergency. But actually, I take that back. You should have the good ones for the emergency. That's the other thing too. We have a tendency to get in the habit of taking our crappy set of screwdrivers or our crappy pair of pliers or whatever, and that gets to be the spare one. Well, when the shit hits the fan, you know, at 2 in the morning and you want to turn off your water spigot, you really would have wished you had the better pair of pliers sitting there, not the... So, don't, if you've got tools that are too junky, you know, I don't know, but don't make those your emergency tools, because that's just not cool to do to yourself in an emergency. Or someone else, too. Alright, now we're going to put some on these ends here. And you know, you could get ends that are not crimping, or you could get ones that don't have the plastic thing on here, and you could solder these on there, but that's really not necessary for this application. This'll do just fine. Okay. All right. So we got all 4 of these done, so we're just going to put this on here like this. Have to kind of manipulate our wires a little bit here. See, they were still a little bit on. Okay, so my SD card decided to fill up and the camera just shut off there. So anyways, we ended up just kind of putting this little snake in here, and this will work out just fine. I went ahead and then I crimped the ends on these 2 wires here, and of course they'll go on here like this. And I decided this bolt here for the battery will go down through one of these too, so I'll just go ahead and put a terminal on the end of these, so I'll have a terminal. So that'll make it the same on all the wiring in here, so that'll be cool. All right. Okay, and let's see, I need one more. Okay. All right. So we got positive and negative and positive and negative, and we're all good here. So, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to do before I hook these things up. I don't think so. Go ahead and hook our positive up here. And I probably got a washer here I can use just for the heck of it. Get a screwdriver here. Okay. And you know, you've got enough room to keep some tools and stuff in here, so kind of a +1 there. Okay, that's good. And let's take this one off here. Never mind the cat. All right. Okay. And you know, you can have this battery in here pretty much however you want. If you wanted it slid to this end, I'm probably just going to put a little piece of foam, you know, on top of here, and then maybe a little piece of wood down at the bottom here just to keep it kind of from sliding this way. And then, you know, with a little piece of foam and the lid closed, it's not going to go up. So if it can't go up and it can't go that way, it's not going to go anywhere when it's in there. So that's my opinion anyway. So all right, let's see. We can go ahead, I think, and put our nuts on this up here. And we're doing this part right here. I already put my washer on that one. Okay. Now let's see here. And again, you could run these wires any variety of way, fused, not fused. You could have two separate wires here. There's all kinds of different ways you could do this. So use your imagination. Just do it. Just make something that works. Matter of fact, a little spoiler alert, I may go ahead, I just happened to be at the store today and this was $5.99. This is a plastic ammo box here, and you know, can't beat that for making one of these too, so I may have to get another battery and do a plastic one. Okay. Definitely easier to work with. And like I said, that's the reason why I kind of, a minimum of ports and holes in this, you know, because it's metal and it's a little bit harder to drill through. And part of it being in this metal sealed box, you know, this is going to be a lot more waterproof probably than, you know, the plastic one, you know. So, okay. I mean, I think this thing could probably take a pretty good tumble before it, you know, could probably tumble down the mountain pretty good before it. All right. I haven't done any of this before. I mean, I have no idea. It may completely short out when I close the lid. You know, I don't know. Completely experimental. And if you're going to do, you know, it might not be a bad idea to put some Loctite on here or some silicone on here, just something on here to kind of help keep this thing from vibrating loose if you've got it in a hostile environment that's, you know, vibrating a lot. Alright. Excuse me. Sorry, I had to do a little bit of babysitting there. Alright. That's one baby you really got to pay attention to, you know what I'm saying? Especially when you got this stuff scattered all over your be careful when you're doing this kind of work, because you go to bed with this stuff laying on your countertop and you get up and half of it's under your refrigerator and your kitchen stove, you know? Okay. Okay. That rubber boot is just really stiff trying to go over this fuse. It's like, whatever. Okay. Well, let's see. That looks like that is going to be really fine. Yep, that should be good. Don't see any problems there at all. So, okay. Alright, so the next phase, I guess what we should do is take and so now what I'm going to do is, so that's pretty much going to be it. I mean, you know, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this other stuff, but that's pretty much going to be, you know, how I'm going to have it. And then whatever I want to hook up to this stuff, if I want to hook up, I mean, which I'm going to show you in a second, if I want to hook up one of these things to it, then I can. And with using this, I'll be able to plug in one of these here, if I can get it out of the bag. And this will tell you your voltage and it's a USB and a USB-C charger. So you can plug this thing into here, and it'll you can attach it to these posts here, and it'll tell you what's going on with the battery, and you can charge it, or you could just use this as a voltage gauge and charge it here, and then have something, you know, hooked up to this here. So it's going to be pretty versatile that way. And again, all this stuff, you know, should be able to store it inside when I'm done. So hopefully so. Okay, so quick recap again. We got our box wired up here. Okay, now there's a potential problem. When the lid's open, I can do something to remedy this little problem here. This latch could pop down and hit the positive and the negative there. Now this is painted enough here. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, that could be a problem. So the solution to that is just to cover this here, and just take and put some, you know, liquid electrical tape, or just take and do something with that right there. I mean, it's only a problem if the lid's open, you know, and you're just not paying attention and it flops over. But that is a design defect, so we won't be marketing these. So, okay. Back to the task at hand, which is wiring up one of these things here. Again, these things you can drill a hole and, you know, mount them flush, but I chose not to do that because this is, you know, thicker than. Now this is a lot easier to put in something like this than this metal one here. And again, this metal one is just a more waterproof, robust. I'm not saying the plastic one's bad, but I guarantee you put a battery in this one here and a battery in that plastic one and throw them both off of a cliff. I think this one's probably got a better chance of surviving, just because. But anyways, what I'm going to do is just take a couple of these connectors here and put a couple of links of wire on them here. Let's see here. That's probably plenty there. Let's see here. Okay. Again, gotta love these things. And this wire is not 12 gauge, but if you get wire that's a lot smaller than 10 or 12 gauge, you can just fold it over and crimp it if it's not, you know, a really high voltage, high stressed situation there. Okay, and then use a smaller crimp. Don't use the yellow one, use the blue or the red, because you're using a smaller wire, and it'll crimp down. Like I said, for something like this, you know, again, worth its weight in gold this thing is, and these here. Okay, so now on this end here, what we can do is we can put got a couple more of these. We don't have to put these on here, but it'd be kind of cool to do that. So we're just gonna strip a little bit more off of these here. Now they're separated now. Okay. All right. Okay, one more. I mean, you're probably looking at about, maybe $60 to build something like this from scratch. That's, $40 for the battery and $20 for all the crap, or maybe a little bit more, but you've got your own battery box. It's going to be sturdy. It's going to be how you want it, and it's probably going to be better than anything you're going to be buying. And even if you do buy one of those, quote, a real battery box, as long as you put your own battery in it and do what you want to it, that way. The idea basically is just so that when the battery goes bad or goes out, it's not something that's hard to find or replace. And like I said, this is a very commonly available battery. So, okay, we got our connectors on here. So what we're going to do is, I believe that one's the positive. So positive on there. And I could go back and shrink wrap all this on here, so it's a little bit nicer. So, let's close our lid here and not let this thing flop down in the way. Alright. Now we'll just unscrew a couple of these here. And let's do this here. Okay. This little piece here needs to be trimmed off of here. Now things will be better, I think. And I'm going to trim it just a little bit more. Just getting in the way of this binding post going down. Okay, now if I put this thing in here, I should get some kind of a voltage reading. And there we go. 12.6. And I haven't, I guess I'll have to put the charger on here. And that's the thing too, you can put, there's different things you can do with this charger. These have these clamps on here. I might leave them on here or cut them off. I could just take and put some of these loop ends on here, or I could just take these posts off and just put the charger on here. As I've said 100 times, and we'll say 100 times more probably, it's all however you want to do it. I'm just going to throw this charger on here. Again, this is just a little trickle charger, which is really all you should need for a battery like this. And there's a ton of different ways you could put more holes in this thing and put all kinds of charging ports in here and this and that. Or you could just lift the lid up. I mean, you could just lift the lid up and put the charger on it there and have a hole coming out for the cord, or, gazillion things you could do. So let's plug this charger in here real quick and just see what it does. We're at 12.7. this battery is just a trickle charger. And it's 12.8 now, so it puts in, I think, I don't know, maybe like a half a watt. It's very, you know, as you can see, it's a really small chintzy trickle charger here. 12.9, so yeah, it's slowly going up there. But you can use whatever charger you want. I just chose this because it's small enough and simple enough to fit inside of here. Which reminds me, next we have to do something about these little solar panels here. I thought it'd be a good idea to get a couple of little solar panels to put inside of here just in case if you were out and about. That might be your only option to charge it. I mean, even if you have to sit out in the sun all day long to charge a little bit, you know, whatever's whatever, right? This is how these little guys come here. You can get these things in all different shapes and sizes. It seems like these were around 12 or 15 bucks for two of them. I can't recall, but somewhere around there. As you can see, there's a spot on the back to put your wiring on there. So I'm going to, I've got some really light red and black zip wire. I think that would work really good for these panels because they don't flow a lot of electricity and you're not going to have a real long run on here. So I've got some wire that's, some of this is probably, you know, this is a little bit heavier than what you would really need for something like this. So I'm going to go grab the smaller zip wire and see if we can maybe solder that on here. And I got two of these. I don't know whether I'm going to solder the stuff onto one of them and just use it and keep the other one in there as a spare, or if I'll put some wires on both of them. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to wire one of these things up and put it on here and see what that does. I may have to put it under a bright light or a flashlight to see what kind of charge it gets because it's raining out right now, so it may not be very sunny for a few days, so I might not get a chance to try that thing out. So before I post the video anyway. So all right, I will return. Stick with me. Okay, this is my little Pine-Sil 64 soldering iron. Plug it into a USB-C, or it has a regular, I guess it's like a 12 volt or 9 volt charging port there. You got to have a decent size, you got to have like a block, like a laptop size, you know, charger for this. You can't run one of those tiny, teeny, wimpy little USB chargers for it. But hit the button and it's heating up. These things are just awesome. It's awesome because it's small enough, you know, especially for electronics and stuff. It's, you know, and it gets hot. It holds the heat really well. It's got the screen on here that tells you how hot it's getting. If you sit it down for more than a couple of minutes or whatever you program it, if you want to go in and program it, it'll shut off, pick it up, it starts heating again. It's ready to go right now. I've just been sitting here talking for 20-30 seconds and ready to roll. So okay, kind of got the weight of the box here on this, so hopefully we can kind of, you know what I'm going to do real quick, and you're just going to have to deal with it. I'm going to run and get my glasses because okay, there's just certain things that really doesn't matter how well you see. Having glasses just is a much better experience for what you're doing, and soldering is one of them. Alright, I think that one's good. that one's on there pretty good too. Okay. Might want to take a piece of tape or something and just kind of put it across the back here just to kind of help stabilize these, because these things are pretty hard in this panel. You just might want to put something on there to kind of help it a little bit. But otherwise, I think we're done with that, so unplug. Now let's see here. So I've got one more of these little eyelets here, but I'm not going to use this one because I've only got one left. So I'm just going to make my own out of the ends of this piece of wire. Just strip the wires a little long, wrap them around, twist them a couple times, and you have kind of your own eyelets here. And then to keep them from deteriorating, you're going to take and run a little bit of solder over them, just to kind of tin them a little bit. And that'll be hot in a minute. Okay. And we're almost there. And where's my glasses? Glasses, glasses, glasses. Okay. This is pretty ghetto, but it works. So now you've got a couple of tinned eyelets. You could flip them over and do the other side too if you wanted to, but that's good enough. But that'll last you as good as those other ones will, especially if you use a washer or something. Okay, now let's see. I gotta check and see which one's positive and which one's negative again here. Okay, this one here is positive. Yeah, nice and tight. Okay. Okay, so there you go. That's pretty much the general idea there, as you can see. Like I said, I don't know how much, if any, probably gonna have to let the battery set a little bit, but I'm pretty sure this thing, I don't see, I'll have to put a voltmeter, maybe a more sensitive voltmeter on there that reads maybe millivolts or milliamps probably, to see if this is putting out some power, but I don't know why it wouldn't. Okay, just a little quick update here on the solar cell here. It is working. So I hooked my voltmeter up to it here, and it's showing a 6.24 volts, just kind of sitting here, not really in the sun. If I put some light on there, you see it goes up significantly. There's 9 volts there. So, and then of course if I cover it up, you'll see it cut a lot of it out there. So it is working. It just doesn't put out a ton, and it does it really slowly, and you know, that's fine. I'm sure this thing, if it was charging all day in the sun, would probably put a pretty good charge into that battery. And like I said, I do have another one of these, so I could you know, probably wire that one up too. And so time will tell with that whole thing, but I'm pretty confident that'll work. And like I said, these solar panels are really more for just like a real emergency situation, and I have no doubt that if you had both of those things hooked up, you know, and had it sitting outside, or had the panels, you know, in an area where they were getting some light, it would definitely charge that battery up. So just wanted to give you a little update on that the little solar cell, solar panel is working. So okay, so a little bit of a recap here. We're sitting at 13.5 volts here on the old little trickle charger I got plugged in over here. I did clean this thing up a little bit here. I took and put some shrink wrap on the end of these connectors here, and put a little bit in the middle here, and just kind of made it a little bit nicer. And I've got another one going over here. I really need to get another eyelet here because this is my last one, and I need to get some more. But anyways, you get the general idea. I'll have one that I can wire up and, you know, have the gauge on it. I've got one that I can wire up and you know, use it to charge something. And again, this thing here has the USB and a USB-C in it already in it, along with the voltmeter on here. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, we got that all set up. Of course, before all that, we put our four holes in here, and so we could put our binding posts in there. And that's how we got that. And of course, I put these two binding posts right here, and then afterwards I noticed that this thing here will flip up and can land on those and could possibly short them out, so we don't want that. So I needed to put some foam in here anyways, just to kind of help keep the battery down and whatever. So this worked out okay. I've got a piece of foam right here, so that can't flip up and hit anything. If I wasn't going to have the foam here, I would have just put like some silicone or something over it, because it only affects it when the lid's open. When the lid's closed, there's nothing that's going to touch it. But just when you put the lid back like that, there's a possibility that that could flip forward like that or like that. So just to, you know, bad on my thought. Like I said, if you're going to be making one of these things, you're going to make it how you're going to make it. This is just how I chose to make mine. And just an FYI, if you're going to make one like this and use this size box, and you're going to put your posts at the top, make sure you move them down a little bit. You know, these two down here are fine, but I decided to put a couple on here up at the top. And so anyways, we got the foam here, and then I got some on top of the battery here to kind of help keep the battery in place. And then there's this block of foam down here that I cut, and this is that layered foam. It's that really dense stuff that you could pretty much package, you know, a stereo receiver in and throw it off a cliff and it would survive. It's that kind of stuff. You get this stuff, probably you got this stuff laying around. I keep it laying around when I get big pieces of it, so I can cut it for stuff like this. So as long as the battery can't move that way, and as long as it can't move that way, it's not going anywhere, and that still leaves me room to put things in, like some extra wiring. You know, a CB radio wiring cord would be great to keep in here, because those kind of have a universal plug on them. You know, and then maybe keep just some, just a piece of universal wire in there. And then of course, after we did all of this, then we've got the solar panel here, which I don't know if it works yet. I'm sure it probably does, but the fluorescent lighting in here, and it being such a small panel, it's just not registering anything on the voltmeter here. But I'll put it on my, I've got a tester that does millivolts, and I'm sure it'll probably show something on there. So, but anyways, you get the general idea. You've got a solar panel here, or a couple of them. You know, this will fit down inside of there, so you can store this in there. You know, just, you know, extra parts and pieces, whatever you need in there. So it's great for that. You probably really got room in there for a Baofeng UVR5, really, if you wanted to stick one in there. Well, you wouldn't have room for the charger, but anyways. if you had a small enough radio to fit in there that was a USB-C. But anyways, so there you go. Like I said, 2 fuses, one on the hot, one on the ground, and just these 2 wires kind of jumpered in there. 10 gauge wire, which is more than enough for what you're going to be hooking this thing up to. And for some reason you really needed, to pull as much as you possibly could off of this battery. Here's the battery. You can always open it up, hook whatever up you need to it, and you're good to go. So like I said, your designs and your ideas may vary as to how you're going to put this together and what you want to do, and that's totally cool. Just do it. Just do it. It's one of those things that I've had this battery sitting around for a little while, and I was like, oh, I finally need to just get on it and do it. And I'm glad I did, because it's nice to have something extra to charge your radio with if you've got a handheld radio of some kind, or you could use this as a backup power supply for a CB radio or 10 meter radio if you don't have the power cranked up too much. 12 amp hour battery, so it'll handle a little bit of power. And then of course just being able to charge all your things that need to be charged, phone, flashlight, whatever. So yeah. Alright, with that I'm going to take a quick break here and come back and wrap it up. So there you go. It's the homemade battery box. And when it's cold and crappy out, this is how you do it. Okay, well that's pretty much going to wrap it up. There you go. Like I've said several times, you don't have to do this exact same recipe here. Just find something laying around and make one. It's not that hard to do. Just kind of the general outlines here of what you need to do. Just make sure you check all your clearances like I did here. Of course, I caught that one little situation here where if this thing flops over here, it could touch these 2 contacts. But we've got some foam in there, and so that's not going to have to worry about that. I've got my extra wiring in here. I've got my 2 ports. I've got this one here that's got my voltmeter in here. And again, I attach these to the top of the lid. And then I got my little solar panel in here. And I got another one of these ports in here. So, and then I've got the spare solar panel in here too, so that I haven't wired up yet. So, like I said, plenty of room for whatever little extras you want to put in there. And then again, if I already didn't mention it, something else you might want, especially if you're using a metal can like this, is some feet. You can get these like a square adhesive foot type of a rubber thing that goes on the bottom of it like that. Or you could also just, if you wanted to drill some holes or put some holes in the bottom, you could put something in it like this here. And also, depending on the kind of battery that you're using, some batteries, they off-gas and they need to be vented. So while you might want to, waterproofing and trying to keep the moisture out is a good idea, you may want to leave a vent, or, have a vent made, or, put a vent in there, or, have some tolerances a little bit loose so that if it's a type of battery that needs to vent, it can do so. So that's, again, going to vary on the kind of battery. Some gel cell batteries don't really need to vent, so you're okay. So, but anyways, just thought I'd mention that. And so once again, hope I inspired somebody to be creative and make one of these things in some way, shape, or form. And thanks again for watching. See you in the next video. Shane, Gemini Garage.